Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are, whatever you're doing, and welcome to another episode of Media Matters by Anfield Index. The Devil's Club does it again, don't they, people? They like to leave it late, although it's a bit different this one, I think, when we talk through it. We'll see what comes out the mixer. We'll talk about, as ever, the off-the-field news and just a small matter of a Merseyside derby on Saturday as well. I'm joined as ever by the renowned and the respected David Lynch. And I'm going to be honest about this, David. Yes, it's last minute. And yes, we've talked about that before. But just to get straight into it, these Reds were brilliant last night, weren't they?
Yeah, I thought they were absolutely fantastic from start to finish, really. You can look at the goals and obviously they do add some context to the game, but it was just, I think sometimes, people find it hard to accept. And I had a few comments on my YouTube kind of suggesting that, look, we've got to tighten up, we've got to do this and that. But I think, football coaches and people that are in it will very much accept that sometimes kind of things happen, for want of not wanting to use the swear word there, but I think everybody knows what I'm alluding to, that things can go wrong that you just can't do anything about. And, goals going in with two deflections, a kind of suspicion of offside around one of them as well. And, that can happen twice to you in a game, and it's a low scoring sport. And so goals really matter, but those goals can happen completely outside the context of the game itself. And I think if you kind of take them out of it, I just thought Liverpool were fantastic. And I would have stuck to my guns on that had they not got the late winner, because I just think sometimes you've got to be, and like I say, coaches are kind of driven by the performances, really, because those are the repeatable things. And if you perform well and perform at a certain level over a period of time, you will pick up an awful lot of points in either the Champions League or the Premier League or whatever competition you're in. So I'm pretty sure Slot would have been very, very upbeat about that last night. Of course, what you do get in the end is, not just proof of how good they are in terms of the level of the performance, but also this ridiculous spirit and ability to pull out late winners as well, which is also part of quality as well, of course. But yeah, anyone suggesting that was fortunate in any way, I don't think probably watched the game, because I just thought, yeah, like you say, performance of the season for me so far. And if this is Liverpool now starting to hit the stride, then the fact they've got so many wins behind them already, it's just incredibly exciting, I think.
Yeah, it was. And just last night, even when it came out that Alexander Isak was going to be in the starting lineup, Anfield under the lights, Europe, you felt the buzz straight away, especially as, we're a couple of goals up early. So that's always going to help the mood at the same time. But I know they had moments, Atletico, where they passed it well, but it wasn't like Liverpool were being peppered and Alisson was diving everywhere. We did pretty much dominate this game, didn't we?
Yeah, exactly. I think people kind of were talking about the idea that the goals were coming because Atletico maybe had periods of kind of decent possession, but they weren't, like you said, they weren't kind of finding loads of gaps or finding it really easy. And you have to kind of accept that sometimes you come up against quality opposition. They're going to have 10 minutes in the game where they can kind of pass into nice areas and move you around a little bit, but you've got to just kind of remain solid up against that. And Liverpool were, like I say, if it wasn't for those kind of sizable deflections, it wasn't, Alisson barely had anything to do really in the game. And the deflections were the ones that kind of took it past him. So I thought Liverpool were excellent. I thought they were excellent against the ball. I thought they were excellent on the ball. They look really solid, but also really dangerous. And it's kind of, this season's been a bit about kind of trying to find that perfect balance. You think to the start of the season, electric in attack, but a little bit open. And then they've really closed things off in terms of, being solid since then over the past couple of games. But of course, then we're maybe finding it harder to maybe find those open play goals. And, yesterday was the first time for me that they kind of put it all together. And I really think they did, even though they conceded twice. So I think Slot, and in fact, it's not think, I know he said it post-match to us in the press conference.
Yeah.
Was pretty delighted with the performance. And I totally agree with him. I think he's right to, and he would have felt the same had they not even won the game.
Yeah, I think that the only thing, and he kind of alluded to it a bit, he's going to be disappointed with is Wirtz should have probably notched one. There was chances when Salah hits the post. It should have just been done already, more convincing. That's the only thing he's really going to pick his side up on there. And I mean, there's a few individual performances. This was the UEFA man of the match, the skipper, Virgil van Dijk. A brilliant goal to join the last gasp crew, but Considering we conceded 2, he was just brilliant again, wasn't he?
Yeah, he's been so good this season, by the way. Just think the start of the season has been phenomenal. And again, it's kind of a player, he gets a new contract, he's kind of age is ticking on a bit now, isn't it? You start to think at some point, is he going to show decline? But I think, I think we spoke around it about this actually quite a lot, you and I, and sort of said prior to him signing the contract that you wouldn't have any concerns about his decline because centre halves a position you can play on a little bit longer. He's not just quick, but he's also really smart. He obviously looks after himself as well. And I think we're seeing that. He's probably not as quick as he was when he was 28, but he's 10 times smarter even, and he was already an unbelievably smart footballer. So, he's throwing all that experience in the mix now, and there's not a better centre half in world football at the minute. But I also see that the debate is now moving on to him being the best ever, and I've been convinced of this for a long while, to be honest. There's just nobody has done this at this level, and I just think he's a phenomenal footballer, phenomenal leader, and he's also a huge threat in the opposition box as well, which is massive for Liverpool and proves absolutely massive in this game as well. So a great header to win it, but everything else he did was with pure class, I thought.
It was a cracking header, and I suppose with his header, is it a good little pickup for Aaron Briggs? Because people have been talking about set pieces, and Ibu's got his head to a lot, but 50p style, it's flown everywhere, hasn't it? Like, they will be looking for more from this pair.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know what you do about Konate. He is so bad at heading the ball in goalward. It's unbelievable for someone who's, defensively, he's very, very good in the air, but he just doesn't have kind of the ability to, he's more of a guy who kind of gets up and clears it away rather than, Virgil, when even when he's defending, it seems like his headers are a pass to someone in a Liverpool shirt. So, he's a bit better at kind of getting the direction on it, and that's the difference between the two. So, yeah, I think when they're practicing these set pieces, I think the aim should maybe be to get Virgil van Dijk on the end of it rather than Konate, because one of them's absolutely lethal in goal and the other isn't. And you think that is possible, by the way, to make him your primary attacking threat, because you think basically every Arsenal set piece is onto Gabriel's head when he's fit and available. So it is possible to do that. So I would just take Konate out of the mix there, and if you can try and hit Virgil, you've got a decent chance of scoring.
And what a header it was last night. And speaking of the other main man that signed a contract renewal, I mean, what a start that is. Since 2017 and 18, Salah tops Messi and Mbappe with 10 goals and assists in the Champions League. Now, the assist has got more than an element of fortune to it. Let's not pretend on that. But a great finish for the goal, and just another game where Mr. Slow Start proves them wrong again.
Well, I mean, look at his numbers from this season. It's crazy, isn't it, that people who've even been having that debate. And again, at some point he's going to slow up a little bit. It's it's not possible that he can keep going at this rate. And I still think it's kind of unlikely he has that kind of 50-odd goal contribution season. You've got to kind of accept that. But I mean, he's absolutely unbelievable, isn't he? And the idea that people doubt that he's just going to be completely washed, as the kids say. Just look at his quality that he's got, and he shows that. And I mean, yesterday it's kind of interesting with the free kick. I kind of wonder whether he's obviously so lucky it goes in off Robertson, and but just the way that Isak moves and the way that Salah strikes the ball, I wonder whether it was kind of the plan to strike it hard to the back post, and because Isak's run is right onto the end of it, and rather than a complete mishit of the free kick. So I wonder if it was kind of a plan. Obviously, it comes off quite fortuitously, but gets him an assist. And then the goal, there's 3 defenders on him, and he just shrugs them off, still has the composure to squeeze it into a small gap and finishes it brilliantly. And anyone who doubts him is a fool, really. He's just a world-class footballer, isn't he? And a couple more years at the very least of seeing that. And it was only a matter of time with all the changes that have gone on in attack. I think as much as you say Wirtz needs to settle, Ekitike, same with Isak, obviously Salah needs to settle into this new attack as well, because the movements around him are all different. The connections aren't there that have been built up over years. So, it's no surprise that it's not been absolutely perfect from him. But he looked right back to his best yesterday, fully involved in everything as well. And I still think he's a really strong bet for Liverpool's top scorer this season.
Yeah, and it's even crazier with all this. He probably should have buried the one where he hits the post from Wirtz's pass as well. But there you go. Comments are starting to come in, which is appreciated. One from Mr. Lewis Deal. Dave, who do you prefer out of the patch journalist? Well, for everyone with knee warmers, there's people who cancel on a regular basis, so we'll say no more about that. But
to be honest, Lewis has shot up the charts recently because of a good microphone recommendation. So it was got noise cancelling and everything. It was absolutely superb. Me against the lawnmowers last night. So he's right up the rankings, I'll say that much.
Fair enough. The young up-and-comer. But, well, speaking of young up-and-comers, he's 23, but Ryan Gravenberch was brilliant again. This is sounding like Groundhog Day. We're almost just saying the same thing. Europe, Premier League, aren't we, all the time?
Yeah, again, another one who's kind of, I think he's working himself really into that kind of, Salah, Van Dijk, undroppable group, really. I mean, there's nobody else who can do what he does in the squad for me in terms of that playing that number 6 role to that high level. He's just, and again, you think about the fact that he started there as an experiment. It's absolutely ridiculous how good he is. I genuinely do think he's one of the best in Europe in terms of operating in that position. And I know some people kind of disagree and maybe don't think still that he's a natural there. I just couldn't disagree more, to be honest. I really, really do think he's got all the qualities. There might be some 6s out there who are slightly better at some things, but they're not as good at other aspects. And, in terms of an all-rounder who offers you progression with his dribbling, he can pass the ball well. He wins his duels, which is 100% what you want. He wins tackles as well. He's just a complete package in that number 6 position. And I mean, some of the turns out yesterday, again, I know he does it like most games, but it still kind of takes your breath away when he does it, and gets you out of the press, and all of a sudden you're away, and you've got kind of runners in front. It's just so exciting to watch, and I think his defensive awareness is there as well. And yeah, really, really good player who rarely gets dribbled past, but he often dribbles past others as well. And I just love watching him play, and he's crucial. He's, like I say, he's in that group where, if you got an injury, you'd be really, really worried about Liverpool, because there's no one can kind of replicate what he does.
I honestly thought it was absolutely sensational last night. And I know you've seen the one that Greg wrote from us about literally his elements of his game and maybe the defensiveness in the system. I know you've seen this. You're not having this one at all, are you?
I think kind of, for me, not shooting down Greg or anything like that, it's football, isn't it? It's a debate. So, but I do disagree with that, I have to say, because for me, I don't know what people are seeing in other 6s personally. I will watch Carlos Baleba, and I know, you look at his defensive numbers, for example, and he's kind of putting up higher defensive numbers in terms of numbers of tackles and interceptions or whatever. But for starters, it's marginal, but he's also in a side that will have less of the ball than Liverpool as well, and probably more scope to do that. And I just I'm not watching Gravenberch and thinking people are getting the wrong side of him constantly, or, and even if they do occasionally, he's got those long legs that can kind of he gets the other side back in time very, very quickly. So it's not kind of anyone's eating him up in terms of what they can do off the ball, in my opinion. Maybe Caicedo shades him in that, but again, it's very, very close. I did an analysis on this recently. So, I'm just not looking out there for this kind of unicorn 6 that exists, particularly after Rodri got his knee injury, and we haven't seen the best of him again yet, which obviously maybe will take a while as well. So for me, there's just no 6 out there that's doing it better than him. And I think, like I say, it's not just those kind of defensive qualities where maybe 1 or 2 are marginally better, but then he completely outstrips him then in terms of what he can do on the ball. So in terms of that perfect balance, which is what a side like Liverpool need, by the way, they need someone who's good on the ball. And, for example, I think Caicedo's a fantastic player, but I think Gravenberch's a better footballer, even though Caicedo may put up slightly better defensive numbers. I think, for me, Gravenberch's a lot more comfortable with the ball at his feet. And like I say, I just kind of am in the position where, like a Baleba's got his weaknesses that you would see more if he came to Liverpool. Wharton, if you look at his defensive numbers, they're really poor. And again, he's another one who gets touted frequently as someone who absolutely should be coming in to be Liverpool's number 6. So personally, I just don't buy it, really. I genuinely don't think there's a player in the world I would swap him for at the moment in that position, not least because he's still very young as well. And there's a prospect there he will get even better.
Christ, Ryan Gravenberch getting even better. What that would be. And I suppose the other players that are getting better, Florian Wirtz, it felt like, in his performance, that was his best one in a red shirt so far, wasn't it? It had a bit of everything.
Yeah, absolutely. Very unlucky not to get a couple of assists and a goal, really. I mean, you kind of think of how involved he was in the play. I think he creates 5 chances, so more than anybody else who's on the pitch. And they were good chances as well. That's not teeing someone up for a 25-yard shot. He put in a lot of good balls into good areas to create opportunities. And, the key one, you think of that Salah one he hits the post with, that would have been an assist. Very unlucky there. He fires one into Isak as well that Isak doesn't quite catch on the turn. And if he does, a goal and then, opportunities himself. I think Ekitike kind of takes one off his toe from a Salah cross, really, when he gets up for that header. Wirtz would have just swept that in if he'd allowed it to drop. And then he can't get the shot off after that. One where Frimpong kind of takes it off him. So I just thought he was brilliant. And I know, he's still getting stick online, isn't he? Because people who didn't watch the game or maybe look at the ratings on apps or whatever, which I really do wish people would pay slightly less attention to them. The data itself is really useful in, FOTMob or SofaScore or whatever. But those scores are done by an algorithm. And I think if you just watch what Florian Wirtz did in the match last night, see how influential he was, how good he was. Like you say, his best performance at Liverpool so far. And again, we're only kind of 5 games into the season. So that's really exciting because we said, he's got a few steps to make, but he's already making them. And you think kind of where's he going to be at when he's 10 games in? It's going to be massive for Liverpool. So really, really excited by him. And I thought he was fantastic. And again, another one where you kind of like, there's more to come. How exciting is that?
Yeah. And again, if Salah finishes that, he gets a goal, doesn't he? Everyone's happy. And, we all type of move on with an assist on the docket. And there's not really too much more to say on Florian Wirtz just now. With Alexander Isak, there was the buzz in the stadium when this was announced, but I thought the signs with him and Wirtz were just promising all round, weren't they?
Yeah, really good. I mean, I was kind of surprised, I have to say, about the fact that he starts the game, actually, because you just kind of think that, I don't have the medical expertise or whatever, but you just kind of thought with him that it would be a case of, okay, maybe he gets 15 minutes against Atletico Madrid, then maybe he'll do half an hour against Everton. But obviously, he thought it was better for him to play a little longer than that and play kind of first half into second half. And I thought his performance was fantastic, really. I just thought it's so sharp for someone who's allegedly not fit. Gets a couple of shots off, some really nice little flicks inside for Wirtz, and they just seem to have that telepathy that really smart players do. And Matt Ladson from This Is Anfield was sat next to me and kind of spoke about Gerrard and Torres and kind of the similarities there in terms of that link up and 2 players who just absolutely get what they're supposed to do in those positions. So really excited about that again, that partnership, and really excited about Isak. And this is a really important step for him in terms of building up that fitness. And he's another one where you say he's going to get better, and once that fitness is built up, it's just going to be exciting to see what more he can do. But in terms of a debut for someone who allegedly was half fit, that's about as good as it gets, I think.
Yeah, I thought he was absolutely sensational in this one. No 2 ways about it. And I suppose it is early days, but was the biggest promise maybe from these two the way they linked? There was just clever play. They just seemed to be on the right wavelength, if that makes sense.
That's it. And I think with Wirtz, you've kind of felt like some of the others haven't been so far this season, but him and Isak just seem to completely get it, which is really nice. And I wonder with Isak's pace as well and threatening behind, he seems a little bit quicker than Ekitike and a bit more powerful in his running, whether that really helps get Wirtz in positions because Isak's pinning them back, and all of a sudden the 10 space becomes a little bit bigger. So that seems to help. But like you say, you can just have that telepathy immediately, and you can just see there's going to be a lot of assisting each other, and they're going to link up really, really nicely, as brilliant players tend to do. So that partnership's very, very exciting, and just the first step to it, really, because there's more to come from Wirtz, as I said. Very much the same from Isak, and you put those two together and you think again, 10 games time, what are we going to be looking at from those two?
Could be special in 10 games time. I suppose in 10 games time, these are great for now, but can we keep doing this for 10 games time? Will this last forever? Last minute winners. it's not lucky. That's important to say, though, is it? This is just by design. This is the team that is going right to the end.
Yeah, it's not lucky at all. You know, I wrote a piece on that on Substack if people want to read that today, the davidlynchlfc.co.uk, that kind of says, look, for starters, the fact that these have been tight games probably owes a lot to the fixture list. It's been a really tough start. You look at kind of Bournemouth have won 3 out of 4. Arsenal have only conceded 1 goal and it's to Liverpool. Newcastle have only conceded 3 and they all came to Liverpool. Atletico is not an easy game. So, you know, that's part of it. But also kind of on top of that, then, you know, that you've got tight games, but then Liverpool have never been behind in any of these games either. So they're always in a position to win them. And then you've got a manager who makes proactive substitutions. So, you know, 4 of those 5 late wins have been through contributions from substitutes directly. And then last night, you know, okay, Szoboszlai and Van Dijk have both been on the pitch for the 90 minutes. But, you know, you see the subs that he's making. He's not swapping an attacker for a midfielder. He's kind of keeping all his forwards on the pitch. And even late on, he's thinking, okay, if I can add Kirkes's pace down that left-hand side, just gives him something else to think about and a bit of extra threat there. So, he's constantly thinking of ways to try and win the game. And so when that, you know, it's not always going to pay off, but when it does, you've earned it through being brave and not hesitating and going for it. So, you know, there is no fortune there. What I would say, and he said post-match, he doesn't want to keep doing this. It'd be nice to have a game where they don't need the late winner, and hopefully that's at the weekend. But yeah, I don't think they should be criticised in any way for this, because I think it's just all on the manager, the mentality of the players, and a team that's had a very tough fixture list but is working their way through it in a point where they've not got the best rhythm. They've made so many changes to the team. Yeah, I just think it's hugely impressive what they're doing, really. And yeah, I want it to end immediately, but yeah, fair play. You can't argue with what they've got out of these games.
Yeah, I think they've been absolutely sensational in the last few weeks, really have. And if it keeps going, it keeps going.